More Americans say it is a good time to buy. Are you effing kidding me? I can't even make this stuff up. And while there's a lot of content that I am looking forward to doing, I had to address this email immediately because it is so irresponsible. It is completely dead wrong. And while it might be the right time for you to buy a home because you want to and you can afford to, and you found your dream home and dream lifestyle, the idea that more Americans think now is the best time to buy a home is total nonsense. And yet there are real estate professionals out there, industry experts, that are telling their clients that right now is a good time to buy. And I'm not going to put this particular person on blast because I know it's not one person that's continuing to spread this message. There are many folks that are out there trying to convince the consumer, people just like you, that right now think it's a good time to buy. And I'm just going to read this to you verbatim. According to today's email that I got from an industry expert, Americans are feeling better about the housing market, according to the most recent results of Fannie Mae's monthly home purchase sentiment index. The index, which surveys Americans and asks them whether they think now is a suitable time to buy or sell a house, how confident they are in their finances and job, and where they think home prices and mortgage rates are headed. And I'm going to pop this in the video so you can see it yourself. But according to this Fannie Mae survey, it found that respondents were more optimistic than they've been in months. And I'm really curious what time period they're talking about, because right now, none of that's true. But it goes on to say that the index was at its highest level since May of 2022, with an increasing number of respondents saying they feel now is a good time to buy a house. Doug Duncan, Fannie Mae's senior vice president and chief economist, says America's optimism is partly due to mortgage rates. This month's increase in the HPSI was the largest in over 2 years, primarily driven by consumers' more optimistic mortgage rate expectations. And he goes on to say an increased number of respondents indicated that they think mortgage rates will go down over the next year, a belief that could be due to a combination of factors, including an awareness of de-accelerating inflation, which is nonsense, and the market's suggestion that monetary conditions will ease in the not-so-distant future. And of course, according to this analyst, actual mortgage rate declines over the next month. And I got to be totally transparent with you. This is where I get incredibly angry. This is where I get super fired up because this is total bullshit. And if you believe this stuff, you're in real trouble. So I am here to tell you the truth about what's actually happening in the Florida housing markets so that you can make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. And if you find any of this content valuable, please subscribe and follow me on Twitter, because in the event this channel ever gets taken down, you will always be able to find me there. And so despite whatever this bullshit article was all about, I'm about to share what consumers really think right now. As a boots on the ground operator of a high performance team here in Southeast Florida, I know exactly what the sentiment is from people just like you that are thinking about buying or selling a home in my market. And affordability is a major issue. And the lack of supply is a major issue. And the debt crisis and inflation and the commercial real estate collapse, which is happening as we speak, along with geopolitical instability and the threat of war and every other worst case scenario, I can tell you that most folks at minimum are concerned. And I read your comments. Some of you are terrified. And yet, on a daily basis, I receive phone calls from people just like you that must move to Florida, that are thrilled that they are in a position to buy what they want when they want it. And yes, most of those folks have money. They are financially secure. They aren't trying to time the market. They are determined to live their best life now and escape winter or taxes or whatever the circumstances that they're enduring right now. They want out and they want in, period. And we want to help everyone. So if that's you, please reach out because we will serve and support you at the highest level, no matter what the market conditions are. Because real estate always trades and the market is always good for someone. But the fact that there are professionals out there right now in today's market, as of this morning, flat out lying to the consumer, lying to their buyers, lying to other professionals in order to prop up the market and prop up their business in a market that has lost tremendous sales volume, in a market where most other professionals are running for the exit door because there's 30% less business. They're out there beating their self-serving drum to paint a picture that is not accurate. And I will not stand for it. That is complete bullshit. And trust is earned. It's not given. So please don't trust me. Do your own research. Do your own due diligence. But please, whatever you do not fall for this nonsense, because the truth is, home buyer pessimism about the market conditions have hit a new low. And I don't know what time frame they were using in that last poll to create a false narrative. Perhaps they were looking at the last recession, the Great Recession. Perhaps they were analyzing the stock market in the 20s. I don't know. But I do know that a better poll, and I'm not a big fan of polls to begin with, because they can be manipulated. But according to Gallup, which is probably one of the most reputable polls out there, only 21% of US adults say it's a good time to buy a house, which is a record low since 1978 when the company began conducting its annual poll. It's down 9 percentage points from a year ago, and it's the second time the figure has dipped below 50%. And the latest results are from Gallup's annual Economy and Personal Finance poll, which was conducted April 3rd through the 25th, and comes at a time when elevated mortgage rates, high home prices, and low inventory levels have slowed the housing market. Opinions of the housing market are bleak and generally similar among all major subgroups, including by region, urbanicity, which I've never heard that term before, home ownership status, income, education, and party identification, according to Jeff Jones, who is an editor at Gallup. But you can't help but notice by looking at the chart that the sentiment about it being a good time to buy a home has fallen off a cliff. In fact, the opinion right now is worse than the 1980s. And given they started this poll in 1978, you can go back and look for yourself and see where mortgage interest rates were trading. But at the time, they were somewhere around 15%, which tells me a lot about the housing market, or at least what the consumer thinks about the housing market. Because at today's mortgage interest rate, which continues to go higher and is currently in the sevens, which many of you have commented on, is certainly nowhere near the all-time high. But the consumer thinks it's a worse time to buy a home at 7% today than they did in 1980, when the average mortgage interest rate was somewhere closer to 15%. And you must at least understand the truth. Because if you're getting emails like I got today, where professionals are trying to paint a different picture than reality, then please run from them and call me immediately, because I will tell you the truth. And the truth is, right now in my hyperlocal markets, home prices continue to appreciate and mortgage interest rates continue to increase. And yet, household savings are at an all-time low, and credit card spending is at an all-time high. And while there are no distressed sales in the Florida market yet, financial distress is coming soon to the consumer. And when the pain of that distress gets much worse, and it will, you're going to see supply uptick exponentially. And even the folks that are in 2, 3, 4% mortgages will be forced to sell, not because their home is upside down, because if they're not financially disciplined and prudent and living within their means, They won't be able to pay for their groceries or their car or for their kids' school or for whatever the necessities of their lifestyle is. That distress will become so unbearable that they will be forced to sell, not because the bank is forcing it, because their bank account is forcing it. And when that happens, supply upticks tremendously. Now, I talked about the liquidity crisis that will destroy the housing market almost 10 months ago. And in that video, I discussed what happened during the last great financial crisis when there was a threat of a liquidity crisis. And it wasn't a threat, it was real. When the consumer goes to the bank to withdraw their funds and they don't have access to it, just like what happened with SVB, the consumer will be panicked. And while this Gallup poll might be a leading survey as to where consumer sentiment is, wait until the next 10 banks fail and the consumer doesn't trust that their money is safe. It will be no bueno for any market, housing, financial, or otherwise. Now, I hope you found this content valuable. And if you did, please subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter. And very soon, I'll be on Rumble, so you'll be able to find me there too, just in case. And if you're thinking about buying or selling, please reach out because we would love to help. And check out my next video because I suspect you will love it a lot. And until next time, peace.